good morning and a happy Friday. Welcome to today's episode of Morning Well. Three things that we will talk about: Pelosi's rebuff, IBM spin-off, and ECB Minutes. US stocks rose to almost 5-week highs on Thursday as traders speculated that lawmakers will eventually provide more stimulus and corporate deal activity increased. The S&P 500 was up about 0.8%, pushing the broad market index to its highest level since 3rd of September. The Dow Jones was also higher by 0.4%. The Nasdaq was higher by 0.5%. Dollar fell by about 0.2%. The euro was little changed though. WTI climbed by about 3.2% to 41.26 a barrel. Gold was higher by about 0.3%. While we were hoping for a deal, Nancy Pelosi rebuffed Donald Trump's call to provide aid to airlines without a deal on a larger stimulus package. There is no standalone bill without a bigger bill, is what she said. She is set to speak again with Steven Mnuchin, and she drew an inference from a Wednesday phone call that the Treasury Secretary was interested in renewing talks on a comprehensive deal. Pelosi remains open to helping troubled airlines, but said that it would have to be in the context of broader legislation. The funny thing is that the markets are hoping that there is going to be a stimulus deal when the writing is actually on the wall. Republicans and Democrats cannot sit on the table to discuss. And then on top of that, you have a president who changes his mind every single day. The dynamic is there's so much of uncertainty there, but yet the market is finding some straws to kind of hang on to and keep itself supported. I don't know how much time it's going to last, but something that really stood out to me. In other markets, Euro Stoxx 600 was higher by about 0.8%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng was lower though by about 0.2%. That followed reports that Trump administration is discussing potential curbs to digital payment platforms developed by Tencent and Ant Group on the grounds of national security. Chinese financial markets are open for the first time this month today, and for once there may be a relaxed start. The yuan is up about 0.7% offshore since it last traded onshore on 30th of September, signaling more gains. Holiday spending from October 1st to 7th gained 6.3% on year. On other macro data, applications for jobless benefits last week remained elevated at about 840,000, slightly higher than the economist's expectation of about 825, reflecting a very slow pace of recovery that we are seeing in the labor market. This metric remains historically high despite dropping sharply from a peak of nearly 7 million in March. On the equity side, Thursday's rise was led by energy companies. S&P 500 energy sector gained 3.8%. Oil prices had also climbed during the day on the prospect of better US growth. Shares of IBM gained about 6% after it said that it was spinning off its managed infrastructure services unit into a new public company as part of a strategy to build up its cloud computing business. The separation is expected to be achieved as a tax-free spin-off to IBM shareholders and completed by the end of 2021. IBM will focus on its open hybrid cloud platform and AI capabilities. The new company will design, run, and modernize the infrastructure of companies. IBM also reported preliminary earnings that beat. Shares were higher by about 6%, as I mentioned. Regeneron Pharmaceuticals rose about 1.4% after Trump said an experimental coronavirus treatment made by the company was key to his recovery. A spokesperson of the drug maker on Wednesday said Regeneron had applied to the FDA for emergency use authorization of its treatment. Shares of Eli Lilly also went up after it was mentioned by Trump. It was up about 3%. Shares of Eaton One surged 48% after Morgan Stanley said it was buying the fund manager for about $7 billion. Morgan Stanley, which is pushing further into the money management business, rose about 0.6%. In terms of earnings, a preview that was given by McDonald trounced consensus with the US comparable sales growth of 4.6%, but said the global revenue fell again in the third quarter. McDonald's global same store sales fell by about 2.2% during the third quarter. McDonald's also said it's increasing its quarterly cash dividend by about 3% to 1.29 per share. Domino's also reported Domino's dropped the most since March after earnings and margins missed. Revenue beat, but the cost of those sales climbed. Lastly, we had ECB minutes that we had a look at. ECB officials believed that the third quarter growth would be better than they previously expected, but their inflation outlook was too optimistic according to the minutes of the September meeting. The pace of euro's appreciation rather than the level of the exchange rate may become a concern. The account of Governing Council's September 9th to 10th meeting showed officials fretting that currency gains had offset some of their monetary stimulus, with a material impact on the outlook for consumer prices. Chief Economist Philip Lien said inflation expectations are at very depressed levels and at a risk of falling further. That's the update. Stay safe and healthy and have a lovely weekend ahead, and I'll speak to you on Monday.